We want to do some mistakes, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay. You've got three mistakes.
I've got three. Yep.
Okay.
I
Mine
got
are.
way more than that, but I got three that I'm going to talk about today. Welcome to the Greens and Blues 14er podcast. This episode, Zach goes on an inadvertent pre-hike fast. Eric sings multiple songs of Hosanna, and we sit down and talk through some of the worst mistakes we've made on the mountain. Well, good afternoon, Dr. Zach. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Eric. How about yourself? What's going on there in sunny Colorado?
Doing well. Actually, today it's actually snowing, which is good because as a whole this season we've been very lax in the snowfall. So we'll take it today. So today, as opposed to normal, it is actually not very sunny. It's very cloudy, and that's okay.
Do you have
I wanted to
seasonal affective disorder for just this one
it's
day, Eric?
starting to come on, but it'll be done by tomorrow, so I'll be through it. Actually, so I wanted to share some feedback from an email that we got from a listener. So Eric Redinger is his name. He lives in New England. He's written to us several times,
Mm-hmm.
and he shared some goals, which I think was cool. We asked for that during
Yeah.
our goal episode a while back. Basically, he mentioned because he lives in New England, his goals mostly include trying to summit some 4,000-foot peaks. There
Yeah.
are dozens of those in New England. He said he's got about five more in Maine that he wants to do, and then several more in kind of the general Northeast, which I think is really cool. It's a cool perspective, having grown up at sea level, and the
Yeah.
highest mountain in my state was less than 2,000 feet. It's cool to hear other folks wanting to tackle mountains that aren't necessarily 13,000 feet high. So,
Some of those
um,
are for real though. Like
I'll
those are,
bet.
and the weather is a thing on a lot of
Hmm.
those. And the mosquitoes will carry you off of half those mountains. So
Good call. Good
those,
call. I'm sure there's a lot of aspects that are even tougher than what we're doing here in good old Colorado. But one thing that I thought was really cool, he wanted to add a Christmas movie to the Christmas movie discussion list.
oh,
Zach, when's the last time you saw the movie Gremlins?
oh, that's right.
I thought I remember a
It's
Christmas motif in that one.
it's been such a long time. That is such an
Yeah.
80s kids movie too. Just add water.
I thought it
Uh
was great.
yeah, that's good. We are now a few weeks past Christmas. Gremlins, what a pull.
Good pull.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, other Eric, for that recommendation. I've been hesitant to show that to my daughter because I was horrified by that movie as a kid. Like,
A little freaky when the
yeah,
actual gremlin creature came out.
yeah, when he comes out of like the poor little guy, I forget his name, but
Gizmo, yeah.
Yeah, when old Gizmo gets wet, like it seemed painful. I don't know. It was a little too rough for me. So, but yes, that is a Christmas movie. I
That's
agree.
It was a good pull. And incidentally, kind of getting towards what you just talked about, that along with one of the Indiana Jones movies basically are seen to be responsible for the PG-13 rating, I found. So before that, early 80s, it was just PG all the way to R. So those movies kind of necessitated a little bit of an in-between spot, and that's where Gremlins, I think, ended up landing.
Interesting. Yeah, leave it to the 80s film production to push the envelope on PG with those, right?
Sure.
I watched some of those movies from my childhood and I'm like, there's a
This
lot
is
of swearing in this. I say the S word a lot. What's going on here? I appreciate that. Both Erics. That's great.
kind of neat. So how are you doing, Zach?
School is almost upon me. I've had an extra long break this year, which has been really good. It's been exceptionally warm here, so I've done
Mm.
all kinds of, I've literally done yard work. I've been out like landscaping and doing things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's worrisome to me how warm and dry it has been throughout the Southwest. You and I have talked about it. I've considered driving out, just doing a couple hikes, literally hikes for this time of year.
Yeah.
I'm already kind of thinking, gosh, maybe I'll get to hike in May, which is normally completely verboten. You wouldn't even talk about
Hmm.
doing that, but very worried about our climate right now and climate. We have other climates that I'm worried about too, but yeah, really worried about that and what this means for the high country and increased fire danger and all kinds of stuff this coming year. But
Sure.
otherwise, I'm good. Like many people, I have decided I need to probably lose a few pounds this coming year. I could either cut weight from my pack or I could cut the weight that I'm carrying with every step. So, working
Take
on
your
that.
pick.
Yeah, yeah. I was at the bike shop the other day and the guy's like, hey, so I have like a carbon fiber bike that weighs like, I don't know, 20 pounds, 18 pounds or something. He's like, have you seen this? He shows me this Trek bike. It's like $10,000 and it's beautiful. Literally kind of a work of art. I can pick it up with my two index fingers, that's
Oh my
unbalanced on.
gosh. You're
And it's
kidding.
like 14 pounds or something. And he's like,
Wow.
isn't that amazing? And I'm like, yeah, but it'd probably be better if I just lost 10 pounds, right? Like,
Did you
I could,
tell him that?
I said I could either pay 10 grand and lose 4 pounds, or I can pay nothing and lose, 10 pounds. But all is well here. I'm excited about what we've got some cool stuff coming up with the podcast.
Hmm.
We've got some guest ideas that are cooking, and I'm excited to talk today about a bit of Schadenfreude. Today, we're talking about the worst decisions we've ever made in the high country. I deeply enjoy these episodes that are centered around mistakes and tragedies and so forth. And I came into this super eager. I'm like, wow, I want to hear what Eric did wrong. This
Man,
sound I am excited for this.
we
So
don't have enough time.
well, we know what you've done right.
I-
There's handful of things here.
yeah, once in a while.
Yeah, we'll talk to your wife about that. But
Yeah, no, please don't.
and your kids, I'm sure they've got something to
Oh,
say too.
for sure.
So yeah, you came up with this idea, Eric, for worst decisions we've made in the high country. Eric, other than for my jollies, why are we doing this today?
That's a great question. I didn't necessarily have a theme behind why we wanted to talk about mistakes. Obviously, I mean, if we can help other people learn from the mistakes we've made, that would be a good thing. But I'm guessing you've alluded to this earlier that the mistakes we're going to go through are probably somewhat common. They're probably mistakes that a number of other hikers have made over the years. So
Hmm.
hopefully they make for good stories, but also maybe a learning experience for those that haven't made these mistakes just yet. So
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think you got it. I think it's to entertain one and to instruct two. If you can learn something from the mistakes that we've made, I've picked out two of my mistakes that I think kind of have a unity to them that I think are common
Hmm.
mistakes that hikers make. But yeah, I think it's also fun just to hear about other people doing dumb stuff and we get to go in our heads, well, I wouldn't do that. That
Until
Simpson
we do
guy,
it on the mountain.
he's an idiot. When I tell both of these stories, I kind of told them in my head beforehand. When I tell both these stories, I tell myself, man, that was really stupid. Like, how do you convince yourself that that was okay at the time?
Right, right.
So, hopefully, with a little bit of reason, I started to follow me with this analogy for just a second.
All right.
When I started working, and I actually, for the first time, had a little extra money in my early 30s, I had a little bit of extra income to invest. And the best advice I ever got for investing was make a plan when it's cold and dark at night, when you're not looking at any investment stuff, like make a plan, stick to the plan,
Hmm.
and do not let emotions force you to deviate from the plan. And I think that advice follows really well for hiking too. Like, here are the ironclad rules of hiking. Do these things and do not deviate from them, even in the moment when you think you want to do otherwise. So,
That's great advice.
that'll be perhaps the theme of the day. And I think with that in mind, Eric, do you want to get us started?
Can. So, yeah, I've got three examples. They're all going to be differing levels of pain, at least for me. Probably levels of laughter for everybody else or just shaking their heads. But so the first one comes from roughly around 2015. So I've hiked the most mountains with you, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Second on that list for me would be my friend Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Third on the list, I think, would be Rachel's brother, Justin, who I
Mm-hmm.
kind of refer to as my brother as well. He's a wonderful, very conscientious, awesome guy. So he and I have hiked a number of mountains together, one of which was Missouri Mountain. And so around 2015-ish, he and I endeavored to tackle Missouri Mountain, standard route through Missouri Gulch and kind of approaching Elkhead Pass, but kind of curving off. As you ascend Missouri Mountain via the standard route, you kind of switch back up its east slopes a bit. And there's a point where the trail kind of curves to the north and then kind of approaches the ridge crest and then curves to the south after that towards the summit. So around this part where it starts to curve around to the north, as he and I are hiking, I noticed this scree slope. And for whatever reason, I became entranced with this scree slope. And I said, I can't explain it. I don't know why, but I started thinking, I think that might go. And it was nowhere near the trail. So we get to this point and I tell Justin, I'm like, I think I'm going to try this slope. And he says, yeah, I'm going to stick to the trail and go the right way. And he didn't say it exactly in those words, but that's basically what he was saying in a kinder, gentler way. So he kept going the correct way. I start going up this scree slope, and first of all, I don't condone doing something like that's you're probably eroding the mountain and doing harm to something that didn't ask to be climbed in that particular way.
Especially
But
if a trail already exists, right?
actually,
Like people on 13ers oftentimes kind of have to pick their own path, but
of
in this
course,
case, there's a trail.
there's
So
already a trail purposely put there. And for sure, that trail was easier than what I was trying to do. But for whatever reason, I decided to make it harder, even though, yeah. So I start going up the scree slope about halfway up, and I'm like, whew, this is starting to get a little steep here. And it was already above tree line, so of course it's steep and I'm out of breath. I keep going. I make it maybe three-quarters of the way up, and eventually I get to a point where I don't know how far below the ridge I was. I was probably 100 feet below, maybe a little bit more, but get to a point where it very clearly is not going to go. It's like class four, maybe even more than that. I was not at all prepared for anything like that. I'm still not, like, class four is
yeah.
not in my wheelhouse at all, let alone back in 2015. So I look at it for a second and I'm thinking, is there any way I can get up this thing? And of course, the answer was no, dummy. You shouldn't have done this in the first
No,
place.
no, a
So
lot of people have done this before and they made a trail.
exactly. They did the right thing
Yeah.
when Eric, you did the wrong thing. So I hung my head down and kind of, okay, admitted defeat,
Oh
hiked
wow,
all the
that's
way.
hard though, man. Like there's a lot of psychological processes that are engaged in rationalization, justification, and sunk cost fallacy thinking, where it's
Yeah.
like a lot of people don't turn around and a lot of people won't admit error. They will just be like, no, I'm gonna keep doing this.
My fear of
Kudos,
class
kudos
four
to
or
you.
greater
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
more than the guilt and shame I felt in having to walk that lonely hike back down that silly scree slope. And eventually, like, Justin kept going. I think he was sandbagging. Like, I eventually caught him on the trail, caught up to him. I said, Justin, I'm so sorry. That was one of the dumber things I've ever done on a steep mountain. I should never have left you. I should have listened to you in the first place. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it. You're good. So we ended up making the summit and had a good day overall. But so yeah, I think my mistakes, there were multiple ones, but one was that I left my partner
Yeah.
unintentionally.
I was just about to say
Um,
rule number one in the cold and
mhm,
dark. No, leave your partner.
exactly. So that may have been the worst one. And of course, trying to do something that was dumb and also eroded the mountain a bit was also a mistake as well. So yeah, off on this episode.
You know, that's an all too human moment, though. I think anyone that's hiked a lot, especially in Colorado, where sometimes there are multiple ways of getting up and down a
Hmm.
peak, has had that feeling of like, I think that'll go. And you get intrigued by it. Now, for me, it usually happens on the descent, not on the ascent.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, that there's probably an easier way. And I
Hmm.
need to remind myself, no, Zach, if there was an easier way, the trail would be on it. But I oftentimes do that where I'm like, especially on 13ers where there isn't a trail, I'm like,
Yeah.
the received wisdom is wrong. I'm going to go down this. This looks fine. It's very, very tempting to do that. So, as much as I want to like be like, "Oh, Eric, you silly boy, you." I've done that too. Or I haven't done it on the ascent, but I've definitely done it on the descent. And I've put myself in some weird situations doing that.
Mm. Well, there you go. Well, maybe afterwards you can laugh at that story, but Zach, and before then, I'd love to hear one of the mistakes that you want to share with us.
So my first one was about 10 years ago as well, my friend. Mount Maxwell in the Sangre de Cristos.
Oh, I think
Lovely,
you've maybe alluded to this
it's
before.
a lovely 13er. And I was hiking it with my friends, a guy named Zach. So we've had
Mm.
Eric, and today we have Zach. My friend Zach and Lexi. So Zach and Lexi were hiking with me. And we wanted to go do a 13er. We were driving up from Oklahoma, so we wanted to go do a 13er in the Sangres before we moved on to the rest of Colorado and did other stuff. We are hiking up Mount Maxwell, and for any of you that have done Mount Maxwell, you basically have to hike up the eastern ridge line. You just kind of hike straight up the ridge. There's a point where you have to duck below the ridge. So we're above timberline. As we duck below the ridge, I notice black clouds forming all around. Like they're not like gray with a tint of sun in them. They're like black. They're very dark and they are swirly, and I knew exactly what that meant. So there's the two little, there's the little angels on
The
the
angel and
angel
the
and the
devil.
demon and
Yep.
the devil. The angels going, Zach, you've seen this before. You are guiding people that have not hiked nearly as much as you have. They're in your care. You should turn around. And
Uh,
then the demon's like, you can get it. It's a summit. You can do it. You can do it. When else are you going to get back here? Come on. Just do it. Do it. And I listened to the devil. And in that time, so from when I had that internal monologue, the clouds just got worse. Now sometimes here's how I was rationalizing it. Sometimes they dissipate. Sometimes they kind of break up, like they fall apart a little bit. So I kept waiting for that. That didn't happen. They kept getting more
yep.
socked in and dark and black, and I was like, that's not good. Kept going though. So from the time I made that decision to the next moment was about 15 minutes, and that's a crucial 15 minutes. So we keep going, and then all of a sudden there is like this crack of thunder and lightning. You know how you used to do the game when you were a kid, like you'd hear the thunder, and then you'd like 1,000, two
You'd
one
count.
thousand,
Yep.
right? Didn't need to count here. It was just like it's like kakazak, uh, just like I think it hit the top of Chiquita Peak, which is just like the peak right north.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I was like, holy smokes! Like the hairs kind of stood up on all of our
Uh-huh.
arms, and we gotta go. So at that point, that was nature's way of saying it's like those '80s horror movies. Get out!
Yep.
Like there's ghosts in the house. Like we are like, okay, we gotta bail. So we start stomping down. We think we've made it. And then probably, and here's your 15 minutes, probably about 15 minutes from tree line, the heavens opened. And they opened with not just rain, but I swear golf ball size hail.
Oh, man.
Like legit, really, really hard. And there is no protection.
Yep.
We are out in the open and just getting the crap beat out of us. Like
Hmm.
this is, I had bruises, like where my pack was covering so I was, is covering my back. So I tried to
Hmm.
hunch over and like inch my pack up around my head. And then I just like wrapped my jacket on my head and it's still kind of rocky. You can't like just run down the mountain. And so we're just getting hammered. And Zach and Lexi are getting hammered. I kind of made it to this spot of like Krumholtz, which is like, for those of you that don't know, it's a tree that's been weathered by high wind and so forth, right at timberline. And it's maybe 4 feet high, and I kind of like huddle inside that.
Mm.
But I'm still getting just pelted, right,
Yep.
by this stuff. And it's just creaming us for about 15 minutes. And then eventually it stops and we all kind of gather up. We're cold. the ground looks like it snowed, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Except it's ball bearings now that we're
Yeah.
walking on,
Yep. Not snowflakes.
not snowflakes, not pretty downy
Mm.
snowflakes.
No,
And we're all just beat and unhappy. I don't know. When I think about that, I look back and I realize when I saw those clouds and I had that internal monologue, if we had turned around then, we could have been below timberline by the time that hail hit.
it started. Yep.
And I think about that and I also realize one other thing. It could have been worse.
Hmm.
Hail's bad. It could have been worse hail, but it also could have been lightning. So that's a mistake that I look back on. That's a cell phone. That's an error in judgment. Sometimes a freak storm comes up and just hits you. In this case, this wasn't a freak. I had time to plan and I ignored the signals. So that's easily one of my worst mistakes. And I think a lot of hikers have done that. They get summit fever. I went back a year later and tagged the summit, and it was fine. Life went on, and I should have had that wisdom at that time, but I really didn't. And as a result, me and my friends paid for it. So
Yep. I could probably ask some questions, but the next mistake I have is eerily similar to everything you just described in a lot of different ways. Uh,
outstanding. Summit fever followed by paying the price for your
That's
mistakes.
that's exactly how it ends up happening. And I think you're spot on. It's almost like a rite of passage, I think, in the mountains to do something silly like that related to something that we can't control, the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost like, I don't know, the but did you die crowd might approach it differently. And
Yeah.
I'll get to that in a bit, but there is definitely something to, hey, I can't control this, yet what I can control is whether I go up or down,
Uh-huh.
and I really want to go up, but weighing the risks, I don't know. We could probably make excuses. Oh, you're at altitude, you're not thinking clearly or whatever. No, the fact is you want to get to the top and there's something in your way and you have to make a split second decision, and are you going to listen to the angel or the devil? So I think,
Yeah, I've got so many cognitive biases towards success, and my identity's wrapped up in this. I only get to hike, maybe 10, 15 days a year.
hmm,
And so,
yep.
like, for me, each day is precious. There's so much that goes into that, but that was a bad decision. So, well, with that as an intro, let's hear your tale of woe, Odysseus, and
Okay.
what you did here.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of eerie similarities to what you just said to what I'm about to say. So, very close to when Justin and I summited Missouri, my buddy Travis came out and we tackled Blanca and Ellingwood, which you've done as well, right, Zach? You've done both those?
I did, and I did them. I did them on the same day with a good old friend of mine named Keith Basham. Yep,
Okay. I think that these two probably warrant their own episode at some point because
totally. They're
there's
great
there's a lot
peaks.
that, oh yeah, fantastic. And
I've
I
got
won't
some
go.
stories to tell from
Oh,
those two as well. So,
I do. I'm gonna hold off on most of my stories because some of them are related to what I'm about to say, and some of them are not. But so Travis and I tackle those. We camp out at about 9,000 feet and just start hiking up early in the morning up that Lake Como Road, which is infamous for just being a hunk of garbage, and just slogging all the way up there. We go around Lake Como. We get to almost to the saddle between Blanca and Ellingwood, which is when you kind of curve off towards Blanca Peak. We summit Blanca Peak. All of that, again, plenty of stories that I won't get into here. As we're coming down Blanca, I look to the west and I say, I don't like those clouds that are coming in. And they were kind of grayish, bordering on black, but they just did not look good. And
mhm.
so I don't know how many times Travis and I had this conversation on the way down Blanca Peak, but eventually we get to a point where I'm like, Travis, I don't like those clouds, man. They just don't look good. And there were a few decision points you come to after Blanca, whether you're going to go after Ellingwood Point or not.
And
And so
Ellingwood, that ridge up to Ellingwood is the commitment is considerable.
it
So,
is. That's a class 3 ridge. Now there's an alternate way to go, which is how Travis and I ended up pursuing it. It's kind of two plusy, which
mhm.
it kind of cuts below the ridge a bit.
Yeah.
So you kind of approach the saddle and then you go down a little bit. We finally get to this decision point. Are we going to go or are we going to bail? And I said, Trav, I really do not like these clouds. This does not look good. And he's like, I think we're going to be fine. And he just very matter of fact, gosh, I do not like this. And so we went. And so we're hiking up Ellingwood. I honestly don't remember much of that part of it.
Probably fretting so much or
I
full
was
of worry.
blinded by my own concern for this whole thing. We get to the top. I mean, it's obvious to Travis, I am not in a good mood because I am
Yeah.
really concerned about this. And sure enough, 5 minutes after we start descending, like you described, it all opens up. It's rain, it's hail. I don't think it was golf ball size for us. It was more kind of pebbly, but there was definitely lightning. There was thunder, like Armageddon was happening around us. And so you could take the kind of two plus ish trail back down to near the saddle and then hike down from there. We decided not to do that. We thought, safety is going to go out the window here. We are just going to go down
Full
as
send.
direct. Yeah, full send is a great way of saying it. As straight line as possible. Safety is out the window. Afterwards, Travis is like, I think we did some class 4 moves there. And I thought, you darn right we did.
Yeah, we did it
That
on wet
was
rock too.
it's exactly so, and it felt like it took forever. I mean, you talk about 15 minutes. I wish it was 15 minutes. It was more like probably an hour plus of just scrambling down this rock, trying to get down as close to a tree as we possibly could, as quickly as we could. And eventually we
It's a
did.
while. That basin below
Oh,
Ellingwood and Blanca, there's a ways before you get back to Timberline there.
it is. And there's a couple lakes you hit even
Yeah.
before you touch a tree. So,
Yep.
I mean, eventually we did get to tree line and I started singing songs of loudest praise and really thankful that we didn't become a statistic or anything like that. And then we eventually get back down to Lake Como Road and we're hiking down that. It's kind of late afternoon at that point, and it's a bluebird day at that point. So we're like,
Same
great.
thing happened to me on Maxwell. The minute we get back to the car, it's sunny again.
It's sunny. You're like,
It's like
what the
we
heck?
we almost died, an hour ago, and now it's like it looks like a perfect day. What's up
Oh
with
my gosh. It's crazy. We summarize like what was the mistake there, I think depending on your perspective, the mistake might actually be different. Like from my perspective, I'm much more risk averse.
that?
So from my perspective, it was we should have gone and I should have really pushed. Say, Travis, we're just not doing this. Like we are taking our lives
Yeah.
into our own hands. We don't want to become stats. We're not going to summit Ellingwood Point today.
Listen to the force, Eric.
And Travis's perspective, like he lives in Illinois. He
Yep.
doesn't get to come out as often. I mean,
Yep.
he used to come out every, once every year or two. It's been even less often recently. His perspective is, I don't get out here that often. And if I do, I don't want to go up this Lake Como road again. Like he had no intentions of doing Little Bear. I certainly didn't. So he just was like, I think it even went beyond Summit Fever to say, you know what? I really don't want to have to come back to this place again if I don't have to. So
Yep.
let's just do this now. And he was willing to take the risk. And so again, I think the but did you die crowd would say, well, it was worth it to take the risk, right? You didn't die and you summited, like you got everything that you wanted. But from my perspective, it was like, I don't like messing with storms like that. So I think what was the mistake? I think you could view it from different perspectives.
Well, yeah, Eric, it sounds like there were a fair number of mistakes there. I like how you put it in terms of your perspective and maybe Travis's perspective, and then I'll give you like the God's eye perspective too. From your perspective, I think listening to that little voice in your head is your comfort level. It's also, at that point you hadn't hiked a ton, but you'd hiked enough to know.
Hmm.
You should have listened to that. I think too, from the God's eye perspective here, if you want to mitigate those concerns, your other mistake is if you're going to go for it, boy, you got to hike fast.
Oh yeah.
And there's where your assessment of your own ability and level is really important. It's like, okay, I can see that that's 30 minutes out. Can I summit in 30 minutes and be clear of this thing? There, y'all may have been, because it's class 3 and it's tedious, you're probably picking a lot of routes, you're probably chatting a lot. And because of that, too, so there's a complex kind of calculus that goes into all that. But like you said, I think we all have to break the seal on that dumb weather mistake And the you keep referring to them, as the "Did you die" crowd, but which I don't really know many of those, but although I guess in Oklahoma there's certainly those. But hiking is a game of numbers. 99 times we've said it a million times here. 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000, you're fine.
You're fine.
Even if you check off the list of like really stupid stuff. And both you and I have checked those lists on a variety of times and we've been fine. And, or, the clouds pass over and we're like, oh, what a bluebird day this is. Right. But it's the one time where, you don't make it home. Yeah, I think our two stories are a nice companion piece of like two guys in the Sangres just going for it a little too much, and weather rolls in, and they don't listen, and they have a friend with them, and they suffer. Like, it's the archetype of a story there. So
Yeah, there you go.
I appreciate that, Eric. That's a good one.
What do you have for your next mistake or I guess your last mistake for us today?
Yeah, and please realize I've made more than two mistakes hiking in my life. But these are just the two that I thought would be fun. This will be a little grinding of the gears here. We're going a little different path here, Eric. I think this was in 2017. I really wanted to do French Peak and Frasco. Actually, I
Mm.
wanted to do the whole
You're going to do Casco too.
Casco too, which you and I ended
Yep.
up doing a year or two later.
Yep.
Two things happen. Kind of funny, not funny. So I had a garden. I swear this is going somewhere, Eric. I have a garden and I was growing tomatoes. And to grow and train tomatoes, I raise them in these tomato cages.
Hmm.
So there's these kind of wire cages that you put them in. I had some of these in my garage and they were kind of upside down. They were kind of sticking up. I'm in my garage just, I don't know, putting away a tool or something, and I kind of slipped. And when I slipped, these tomato cages are about maybe, I don't know, 3, 4 inches shorter than I am.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
slipped and my right eye impaled. I act like it did it. I impaled my right eye on one of these metal prongs sticking up
That sticks up from them. Oh my
from
gosh.
these tomato cages. And if any of you have had a tomato cage, it's like a little, it's like wire, basically, like real
Uh-huh.
thick gauge wire.
Yep.
And I basically impaled myself on it. It cut a hole in my eye.
No way.
I was like, I mean, I screamed. It was intensely painful, right? My beautiful wife takes me to the eye doctor and she spends the next hour numbing my eye and digging dirt out of it and pump me full of steroid to help my eye heal. And basically, for the next week, I could not be exposed to sunlight. They had dilated my eye so much that I couldn't go out into the sun.
How
So
have I not heard this story?
I
Oh
don't
my
know how we were
gosh.
buds then. So I just
Yeah.
like laid around and watched the TV show Billions and Ray Donovan. I got a Showtime subscription for a week and just like speed watched all the series. I just laid around in the dark for a week. Okay, that's part one of the story. There's two more parts. So I'm just laying around all week. Then somehow, like near the end of that week, I was supposed to go hiking at the beginning of the next week. Somehow at the end of that week, I got like a stomach flu. My stomach was all turned over and messed up. I wasn't eating right. Heck, I not eating at all for like 2 or 3 days. And then just as my stomach started to get better is when I had my planned hiking trip. Like an idiot, I was like, I think I'm going to do that. So I still haven't eaten a proper meal in like 3 days. I've been laying indoors in the dark for an additional 5 or 6 days, wearing like these weird polarized
Uh-huh.
sunglasses indoors. I haven't exercised or even moved my body in like 8 days. I'm like, you know what? I think I'll do a full drive out to Colorado and hike French Peak and Fresco the following day.
Oh my
And
gosh.
in my head, that made complete and total sense. Like, I remember stopping at a supermarket in Trinidad, and like the first meal I had eaten in like 3 days was like a little bowl of chicken noodle soup from
Oh,
like the Safeway in Trinidad. And then I go on to Buena Vista and I feel okay, so I like have a little bit more food, but I've maybe consumed maybe 1,000 calories in like a 3 day stretch.
Oh my gosh.
So I go up that road, that Half Moon Creek Road, camp out for the night. I wake up in the morning. I actually feel surprisingly decent. I have my usual oatmeal and I'm on my way. I'm wearing sunglasses. My eye is healing, but I'm on my way. And I'm like making my way up the trail. And to my credit, I got a ways, basically almost to the summit of French Peak. And then when I got near the summit of French Peak, I hit like the hardest wall I've ever hit as a hiker.
I would imagine.
It was like full on like bonking. I've never bonked that hard before. I had nothing left in the tank. And I had packed extra food and I remember sitting there at like 13,900 feet right below the summit. I hadn't even summited yet, right? Like that's how bad off I was. And
Yeah.
I'm like cramming food down my throat. I'm like, I think I ate 2 or 3 Cliff Bars. I ate a nectarine. I'm eating salami. Like I'm eating like a full smorgasbord, just trying to get something in me. I felt like crap. And so, of course, when you feel that bad, what do? You go ahead and hit the
You
summit,
go
right?
and go all the way. Yep.
Yeah. It's like you and Travis. Yeah, well, we're here. Um, so I'm like, I've already suffered this much. French wasn't hard at that point. Like I just kind of walked up the ridge to it. I don't really remember the traverse over to Frasco. I mean, I have pictures of it. I did it. I know I was there. But I just remember the whole time being like Chevy Chase in National Lampoon's Vacation. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
In the pool, yeah.
I'm just like, this is the dumbest thing I think I've ever done. I feel horrible right now. I have like I'm weak. I'm not stumbling, but I'm fragile. And so I ended up somehow summiting Frasco and then I like stumbled down the mountain and
Wow.
probably about right when I got back to tree line is right when my body started to actually digest all the food I had thrown in there. Like some of the simple sugars hit at a certain
Yeah.
point, but like I finally, and it was like my feet lifted off the ground. I was like, oh, wow, this is what it feels like to have
To
calories in
have
my blood.
food.
Like, whoa. And yeah, so I walked all the way down at that point, and then I went and hiked the next day, and yeah, I think hiked the next day, and I felt okay, but that was ridiculously stupid to be in that kind of condition. My eye, I don't think it fully healed even at that point. I certainly my stomach hadn't fully healed. I don't know what's wrong with me. That was just dumb in like 14 different ways. Make fun of me as you see fit at that point.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think you had mentioned earlier, sticking to the plan. Like, what's the plan? I think that it can go both ways, right?
Oh, I was sticking to the plan, all right.
Exactly. You didn't want to deviate from, hey, I've got this planned out. I wanted to go.
Yep.
Here's this little side issue that happened with my eye, but
I just so happened to have almost blinded myself and then have had the worst stomach flu I've had in 20 years. Yeah.
but do I want to change the plan? No, you still don't want to change the plan. How often do you get to go out to Colorado, right? So I can definitely see the desire to want to keep doing it. The fact that you had the fortitude to have this, I mean, punctured eye. I mean, is that an overstatement?
Yeah, I mean, I dragged a metal blade along my cornea, essentially. Yeah.
And then you have a stomach flu. You haven't eaten in days. Not only, and then you make the long drive. Like I know that that's a long drive from Norman all the way out to
It was a
Colorado.
12-hour
And yeah,
drive, and I was happy to do it.
goodness, I mean, mistake probably, but like I think you would do well to take some pride in that too. That's you persevered through all of that stuff and still made it to the top of both of those mountains. Like
Yeah,
that's
that
wow.
that's thank you, Eric, for putting it that way. I had thought of it in hindsight, there's been moments where I've talked to my wife. She's been like, "Do you really need to go now? Like, is is that a good idea?" And I was kind of channeling that voice when I thought about this example.
Uh,
Um, but yes, it's hard enough to go and to drive from. I live at 1,000 feet above sea
mm,
level.
yeah, yeah. You weren't
It's
even
hard enough to
close
do
to
that, to wake up one day at 1,000 feet, wake up the next day at 10,000 feet, and within a few hours be at almost 14,000 feet
yeah.
and feel good. Much less to do it where you have like literally no glycogen stores left, you're weak and degraded. I look back on that as kind of like a a real triumph of the will, but
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
other hand, wow, should I have not been there? What would it have
yeah.
hurt me to have taken an extra day of rest, fill up my body, or an extra week where I could, maybe get out, go for a jog? So, for me, the unifying feature of both my stories is summit fever will do weird things to you
It
and
sure
will
does.
do weird things to your judgment patterns. So,
Yeah. Well, and you were alone on that too, right? So,
yeah.
like, count, count the ways that that could have gone worse. That
Oh,
you
yeah.
just keep going. But again, the but did you die crowd would say you made it and you persevered and
And now I got a cool story to tell,
you got quite a story.
and I know a limit I can push through, even if I shouldn't.
Probably don't want to even approach that limit ever again.
Side note slash tangent. I found on sometimes on 14ers.com they'll have like a post of like what's the highest tree you've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I've seen that post.
On the traverse between French and Frasco, like 30 feet below the traverse. So this is like at 13.6. I found a little bonsai tree there. For me, I've got a little picture of it. So when I was reviewing my notes to tell this story, I looked and I found that little tree and I was like, I remember that's where I sat and ate lunch was next to this little tree trying to grow at 13.6, little tree that could. I remember that really distinctly being just absolutely fascinated by it. And I had wondered
Yeah.
in hindsight if I had like hallucinated it, but I found a picture of it. So there it is.
Yeah.
So there
Wow.
you
Did
go.
you post that? I've seen that post on the forum. Did you add that to the forum? Did
I
you
have
post that?
I have not maybe I should. I don't know. I just tend to lurk on 14er.com boards because the environment there is so to me. But
You get a
yeah,
little
maybe I.
haphazard sometimes.
That's a word. That's a choice. Well, Eric, that's my final and funny story. By the way, my eye is better now. It's been better for a long time. I see
Yeah,
through
yeah.
it great. My doctor said I was within probably a half a millimeter from losing my eyesight altogether.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So, shout out to my doctor in Norman. Her name is Nicole Kish for saving my eyesight. But
Wow.
we got one more story, Eric. Tell us about what you got. That's a worster experience.
This is worstest. Like this is doesn't
Okay.
even oh my word. This one I'm gonna count the mistakes at not on my fingers, but like
Yeah.
I'm gonna note the mistakes as we go because they just add up.
Okay.
So last year for Christmas, you know that I got a bunch of winter gear. So I got
Yeah.
snowshoes, I got micro spikes, gaiters, ice axe. So I thought it would be a good idea to actually use them. Whether that was a good idea or not is debatable. So after I got that gear, I did a whole bunch of research on winter hiking. The .com has several pages on the equipment that you need, how to use it. Laura Clark, the Wild Wanderer, has an entire page dedicated to tips and tricks she's used over the
Oh,
years and a lot of good stuff on there.
awesome.
So I'm going to pick a mountain, something that has a short round trip, relatively speaking, not as much gain, and is accessible. And so I ended up picking Pennsylvania Mountain,
Yep.
just above 13,000 feet, like, or
Mighty,
yeah,
mighty Pennsylvania, 3 feet above the
so
line.
exactly. And I think LiDAR added a few feet to it, but it
Okay.
needs every foot it can get.
Yep.
I waited for a weather window, found it, and set out and said, I'm going to go. So I think I got to the trailhead a little bit late. You kind of have to drive through a
Like a
sparsely
residential neighborhood.
residential neighborhood where the houses are very spread out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get to the top of the particular road and it's essentially the trailhead. And immediately I had to put my snowshoes on. Like there was
Hmm.
enough depth to where I'm like, I got to kind of try to walk on this. I'm going to just be post holing the whole time if I don't do that. So going up, you kind of weave through some trees a little bit. You eventually get to this bump that it sits at about 12.9 right before the
Hmm.
summit. And on the side of this bump is when I really got my first winter experience. Okay, I got my snowshoes on. The wind is howling, not super cold. Actually, some of the tips I found on those websites really were helpful in terms of just knowing how to best bundle up. And so I wasn't really that cold, but the wind was just howling. And go up, get to the top of the bump. Laura, especially, details that there are multiple false summits.
Yes.
Um, there's other reports that say the same thing. So I was somewhat ready for that. But I get to the top of the bump and you can see clearly across the valley to
Yep.
kind of the northwest. You're like, oh, that's the real summit.
Yeah,
Shoot.
I got
So
to go all the way over there.
yeah, all the way over there. So you got to go down into this little tiny valley in between the two, and you go up. And there's actually a couple of summit posts on the top of
Yeah.
Pennsylvania Mountain. Don't know which one is the real one. Doesn't matter. Went to both of them. Kind of went down from there. I didn't reascend that bump, but I kind of traversed around the side of it.
Hmm.
So once I got to the side of it, I was maybe halfway down that bump from the very top of it. But I looked to the east towards the direction of where my car was. I noticed two different clearings
Yep.
in the trees below. So my very first mistake here was not having a partner with me on my first winter hike, even though it was a low 13er, class one, like relatively easy as things go. I should have still had someone with me, probably. That was my first mistake. Second mistake was not dropping a pin where my car was on my GPS. So I had cell phone service, I had access to
Yep.
Google Maps, but I thought, you know what, I don't think I'm going to need it. Like it should be fairly straightforward.
Before you get any further, I did the
Uh-oh.
exact same thing on Pennsylvania.
No,
But
you're kidding me.
in reverse, I think you're going to end up at a lower parking lot.
You're
I ended
right.
up at a higher parking lot. You're going to finish on
You're
the lower
kidding.
lot. I can just I same thing happened to me. I
You're it,
Yep.
it's almost exactly the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I had read the topo maps beforehand. I'm like, okay, I don't want to go too far south
Uh-huh.
because there's a steep drop off there. I want to completely avoid that. But at the same time, I thought the clearing on the right, the more southward clearing, looks like the right one.
Hmm.
Now, part of me was hoping I could follow my tracks back, but of course,
The
wind is
wind.
howling,
Yeah.
snow is completely covering my tracks. I have no idea which way I came from. So I just start going towards this more southern clearing. Eventually, I get to this point where there's this angled slope, not super steep, but a little bit steep, going about 50 feet down. That was my next mistake, was realizing I've never seen this before. Therefore, I
Yeah.
shouldn't be here. This is not
Yeah.
where I want to be.
I need to backtrack and figure out where I went wrong. But
I
no,
need to
you're
exactly.
not going to do that, right?
That's not what I did. I ended up going kind of scooting down this slope. I don't know how deep the snow is. You
Yeah.
know, it could have been 2 feet, it could have been 10 feet. I have no idea. I scoot down this slope. At the bottom, I realize I lost a snowshoe along the way. So I'm like, good heavens. So I have to go back up the slope
Go
and
dig through your tracks and find it.
oh, dude. And we're at like, I'm approaching some trees. So, we're, 12,000-ish feet. I'm going uphill on a slope in snow. I'm post holing to my knees every time. Every step is like, man, this is intense. I like way more intense than it should have been. Eventually, you take a step, two steps, then I got to take a break for 1 to 2 solid minutes to just catch my breath, get up to almost the top of that hill, find my snowshoe, dig it out, put it back on. At that point, that's when my next mistake was made. At that point, I should have turned around and said, you know what? This
Yeah.
is totally the wrong way. I need
No,
to
you
kind of go
went right
back.
back down where you were going to go.
Went back down that stupid slope again. And then, so at that point, I'm at the base of this slope. There's a good 100 to 200 feet just flat snowbank. And that leads to some trees. And I know that's the direction I want to go in. It's kind of
Hmm.
north-ish from where I'm at, northeast. That's exactly where I want to go. I don't want to test how deep this snow is. Again, it's a flat surface. I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
snow has clearly been building up on it. It could be again 2 feet or it could be 15. I have no idea. So I can't go north. I can't go south because there's that steep cliff
Hmm.
waiting for me there. If I go west, I'd be going back the way I came, which again is the way I should have gone. So east is the only option I've got. And east is a kind of a gradual downslope into the trees. I thought, okay, this is not steep enough to where didn't look like I was going to be causing any avalanche. The angle wasn't high enough. There's some trees I can kind of help use to gain some leverage maybe along the way. And every step I'm post holing to my shins, to my knees, sometimes to my
Even in
thighs,
your snowshoes.
even in my snowshoes. So, and this is like early to mid afternoon at that point.
Okay, so
So
it's
I think the
softened up a
snow
little
was
bit.
warming up the snow and
Yeah.
softening it a bit. So I'm walking through this kind of forest with that much snow on the ground, a foot, 2 feet of snow, and I'm going to the east because as I look to the north, like north is where my car is. I know this. I
Yeah.
want to go in that direction, but it's sloping enough upward. Like, I don't know if I could actually do that right now. It just looks too steep. So I just keep going to the east, hoping that the terrain is going to ease a bit to the north,
Hmm.
and it never does. So I know at this point, this is the closest I've come to hitting my call button. Like I was starting to freak out a bit. Like I have to keep moving. If I don't keep moving, I'm gonna get too cold, and
Yeah.
who knows what's gonna happen then. I don't want to cause any avalanches, so I don't want to go in any directions that I know that could be a risk. Really, I just kept going to the east. Really, that was and slightly downhill. Every 15 minutes or so, I would check my location. Okay, the dot moved a little bit to the east, but I'm really not any closer to where my car is. And I'm thinking, okay, every step is laborious. Like this is way more than I thought. This is
Yeah.
supposed to be Pennsylvania mountain. Like this is
Oh,
supposed to
and
be one of
anything
the
can turn into a bad day, my friend.
totally, and the mountain's always going to win. The mountain won this one. So I just every 10, 15 minutes, I would take a stop, take a breath. I'm like, man, I've only taken whatever, how many steps, and I got to stop, take a breath, evaluate my location. Am I anywhere closer to where turning to the north is going to ease up a little bit? And I did this several times. Eventually, I kind of zoomed out of the GPS map a little bit and found that if I kept to the east and actually a little bit south, there was a road.
Yep.
So the road was going to connect with the rest of the subdivision. Now I looked at the road, I'm like, dude, that's going to be a long, because it's a convoluted maze
Yeah,
to
you're
kind of go
gonna have
through
to
that
walk through
neighborhood.
the neighborhood back up to your car.
That's exactly what I had to do. So eventually I get to this point where on the map, my dot's really close to this road. I see this abandoned cabin, and then I look just beyond there, and there's the road. And just like Blanca and Taylor, I'm singing songs of loudest praise. I'm like Thanksgiving, gratitude all over the place. I'm like, thank you, Lord, for this road. Like I'd never been so thankful for a flipping road. So I get there, I stash my pack and my snowshoes, I grab a water bottle and just start hiking up this road. It takes me about an hour to get back to my
Yeah,
car. That's how long it
you
was,
were a good mile and a half from your car.
at least. Just ridiculous. And eventually get to my car. I mean, this is in January. We were approaching sundown. Really fortunate to get to my car, drive down, get my stuff, and then head to Fair Play, go to Casa Sanchez for dinner and have the best breakfast burrito I've had in my entire life.
It's all
Go
good.
home. It's totally, and I go home. Rachel asks, "Oh, how was your trip?" And I said, "Oh, it was a little tougher than I thought it would be." But I had nightmares for weeks about
Yeah,
getting stuck in the snow overnight. Like, how would people find me if I even hit my button? So, mistakes all over the place, just everywhere. I should have gone with someone else. I thought I was prepared, but I should have been even better prepared. I should have made better decisions in terms of, orienteering. Where am I? Where do I want to
yeah,
go? How do I get there? I should have been in better shape. Like every step, even going downhill, every step just took it out of me
yeah.
because of how much I was plunge stepping. And so I'm sure there's plenty more that I'm not even summarizing here. So
I will.
that's
I will say
that's the
though,
worst thing
Eric.
I think I've ever done.
I mean, you're fine. You made one mistake there, and then you just kept doubling down on it, which is
Yeah.
you made a misjudgment in route finding.
Yep.
But route finding in the snow is really hard. You
Learned
don't
that the
have
hard
your
way.
normal markers, you don't have a trail. You
Yeah.
don't things look different in the snow. Things look different when they're green, white, and gray. I'm with you. I don't get lost easily.
No, not at all. That's your
I kind
spidey
of
sense.
I can lose my way in the snow though. I don't blame you. Yeah, I think your biggest mistake wasn't making the first misjudgment in trying to get where you needed to go. It was continuing to do it, and
Hmm.
especially if after you'd climbed up and retrieved your snowshoe. At that point, it's like the universe is speaking to you, Eric, and
Like
it's saying
how
you get off this.
how
But
dumb can you be? Like you're clearly going the wrong way.
well, yeah, you hadn't told me that story before either. That's a goodie. I
That's a
I mean
keeper.
I think there's through lines in all of our mistakes here. A lot of what they call sunk cost fallacy, which is, well, I've
Mm.
already done this, so I should keep doing it.
Yep.
Mistakes in thinking. And then there's rationalization for a few of us, like summit fever is the problem.
Mm.
And in your case, this last one is, unlike your first story, you were unwilling to admit your mistake and undo it.
And
And
undo it.
because undoing it would have meant going back uphill,
Hmm.
probably getting back onto the ridge and kind of reconnecting with your original path. And that would have been a pain in the butt. And people are very loath to do that in the hills. So
Mm.
I get it. I, I'm
Thank
with
you
you,
for
man.
the thank you
I'm
for the
with
encouragement.
I'm with you. You know, there's a reason we're sharing these stories. It's because most people do them.
Yeah.
Wow, Eric.
Well, Zach, thanks for sharing your enlightening wisdom
Mm.
gained over the years, and
It
thank you
does
for the
not preclude
encouragement.
me from making really stupid decisions about what I do when
Ridiculous.
I'm hiking. Like that's the thing. That's why you make the cold plan in the like I feel like I need to laminate a list and hang it from my neck, which is like always never leave your buddy behind. The summit will be there tomorrow.
Uh,
If the weather looks bad, it probably is. Like all of those things, and I just need to like look at the sign, Zach. Look at the sign. So,
I think we all probably need something like that.
oh man, woo.
Well, Zach, what are we gonna do on our next episode here?
Well, speaking of cognitive biases and
Ah,
errors in decision making, we're going to be talking to a clinical psychologist, Dr. Shauna Burke from the UK, who actually studies what motivates people to hike and climb, to climb really big things. Most of her subjects have done Mount Everest
yeah.
or have tried to do Mount Everest or
Yep.
other bigger peaks. And she looks into what motivates us to do silly things like, I don't know, try to hike a peak after you've been blinded and haven't eaten for 4 days. So
Let's ask her about that.
let's tell that story again, shall we?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our next episode. And if anyone wants to reach us in the meantime, Eric, how can they do so?
We would love to hear, like we heard from Eric Redinger before and
Yeah.
others, we would love to get notes from everyone at our email address, greensandbluespodcast@gmail.com. Or you can visit our website, greensandbluespodcast.podbean.com, where you can find all sorts of other ways to connect with us, like connecting with our Facebook group, watching some silly videos of us doing non-dangerous things on our YouTube channel, or you can leave us a voicemail from your desktop. So those are all great ways to get a hold of us, and we love hearing from anyone that wishes to do so.
And if you're in the Summit County area, you can go by the Blue Moon Bakery, grab some gluten-free treats, and airmail them to Norman, Oklahoma for me. So
That's probably the best way to get a hold of us, I think.
that's the way to ensure a response. I can tell you that.
For sure.
Well, we thank you all for listening, and we hope you guys are enjoying the new year. And we will see you in the next episode.